Hi, this is Jason from Horrific Nightmares, and welcome to another Ranking the Franchise. Now, I still have a couple franchises to catch up on, one being Predator, since we had a entry in 2019, which of course was The Predator, but there's quite a few movies in that franchise, and I need to rewatch them all, so I find out where they rank, so it's going to be a few weeks. And I also want to do Star Wars at some point in time, because we did have, of course, The Rise of Skywalker. So, this week I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be looking at the Coffin Joe trilogy. And since probably quite a few people aren't familiar with Coffin Joe, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him and tell you a little bit about the trilogy and who he is and show my collection and stuff like that. Now, the trilogy I'm going to be working on today is, of course, the trilogy that has At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul, This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse, and Embodiment of Evil. That's his trilogy that all has to do with the same basic storyline. He did make other movies. What I'm going to do first, like I said, is kind of show you my collection. This is the Synapse collection that has the trilogy on it. They're all in DVD format. And it's really a nice set from Synapse. It's actually beautiful. And that doesn't want to shut. Okay, so I was actually quite fortunate, and I stumbled across a collector who advertised in, I don't remember if it was Facebook or Craigslist, but he was local, about 25 minutes away, and this guy had tons of stuff, and he was moving. And I mean, just like busts, statues, pictures, autograph stuff, and he had some stuff that he wanted to sell. So I bought some stuff off of him. I do believe I made a video on that. I can't remember. But anyway, I was fortunate enough to find his trilogy, his other trilogy, but it just didn't come with the coffin. And I'll explain that. The other trilogy is from Phantoma, and of course it has This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse, which is the second movie. At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul, and it has Awakening the Beast. Now these are really, really pretty cool because they come with an original Coffin Joe comic book. Now Coffin Joe is Brazilian, and At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul was actually the very first Brazilian horror film, full featured, not just a short or an entry into a contest. So all of these come with a Coffin Joe comic book, because he was pretty much the, I don't want to say he was the Elvira of Brazil, but maybe you guys can kind of link what I'm trying to say. He had posters and hats and all kinds of stuff. He was basically it for horror in Brazil. Now, as I said before, these are the first two movies. At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul, This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse. And these came out before his third film in the trilogy, which of course is Embodiment of Evil. So, the Coffin Joe coffin set came with the first two films, and this film, which was banned in, I believe it was either Germany? It was banned somewhere for 23 years. Awakening the Beast is an art film, and it's a bunch of short films cobbled together about how drugs was ruining Brazil, and sex and perversion and all that kind of stuff. It's actually quite racy. And at the end, one of the shorts is an actual experiment with LSD with 4 patients, and it's very interesting. At least that's what I'm told. So, and you can see a lot of weird stuff on there. I'm told it was actually real, that they actually did experiment with LSD and they got the results from the doctor. So as I said, these three I was very fortunate to find. They're pretty expensive. If you get them with the coffin, they're even more expensive. He did have another set that had the coffin that was brand new and sealed, but he wouldn't sell that to me. Believe me, I tried. But now let's get back to the original trilogy and the whole reason for ranking the franchise. For some reason, this broke and this won't stay in there now. But I'm going to use some of the other films in order to illustrate my point. Now, coming in last, because I only do franchises that have 3 or more films, so I figured this would be a good way to introduce everyone to Coffin Joe, because he's pretty darn cool. Okay, coming in last is the very first movie that he did, and that's At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul. Now, the reason why this comes in last is because it was made in 63 or 64, and he was just starting to cut his teeth into the horror genre. And unfortunately, in this movie, he comes off more as a bully than an actual demonic sort of being. A Satanist, if you will. It's still a very good film, and the premise of these films is kind of a simple one, but it does follow the films into the trilogy. So in this film, you're introduced to Coffin Joe. He is a gravedigger, and he has a wife who is unable to bear him a child. And that's what he decides he wants. He does a bunch of bad things around town, but like I said, he comes off as more of a bully than an actual demonic being. So he decides he wants to have a child to strengthen his legacy. But his wife is unable to carry him, or unable to carry their child, so he kills her and takes his best friend's wife and tries to impregnate her. I'm not going to tell you what happens. That's basically the first film, and like I said, it's pretty tame for the most part. But here's the back. Here's the front. Coming up next is going to be the third film in the trilogy, and that is Embodiment of Evil. Now, Embodiment of Evil is very, very mean-spirited, very gory, very sleazy, but I loved it. Now, this, of course, is the third film in the trilogy, and the first two, At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul and This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse, take place in 63 and 67, I believe. This one was done in 2005, maybe 2008. So the story follows that he has been put in jail for 30 plus years, and now he's getting out, and he wants to continue his bloodline. But only this time, he has a kind of a motley crew of people working with him. And he's basically a Satanist and all that kind of stuff, and that pretty much follows the story. So, and that's Embodiment of Evil coming in second. Now, my favorite Coffin Joe film is This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse. Even though Embodiment of Evil is really, really gory and really sleazy, you can tell he really comes into his own on This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse. Now, this takes place directly after the first film, At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul. They kind of rewrote history a little bit. He kind of died in the first one, but instead of having him die, they just basically said that the beings and the hauntings and the zombies and all that came out only messed up his eyes, that he was still alive. He gets better, and he goes back out and tries to continue his bloodline. And he kidnaps a bunch of women from a town to see who would be the best mate for him to continue his bloodline, because it has to be a superior being. He considers himself a superior being, therefore he needs a superior woman to create a superior race. I'm not talking like Hitler or anything, I'm just talking like the ultimate in evil. So, yeah, I'm kind of going to leave it there, although in the middle, this is the first two movies are in black and white, but in the middle of this film, there is a hell sequence that is in full color, and it's really, really cool. Very cool. Because he gets kind of pulled down into hell, but that's a different story for a different day. But, yeah. So, yeah, this one's definitely my favorite. Not quite as mean-spirited as Embodiment of Evil, but not as tame as At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul. This is where, in my opinion, he comes into his own, and that's why it's my favorite. I hope you guys kind of understood where I was going with this and enjoyed learning a little bit about Coffin Joe because he was an icon. Unfortunately, he passed away in February of 2020. I think with the coronavirus happening and everybody being up in arms, it kind of got missed in the media. But I was very saddened to see that he had passed. I had watched this movie several times earlier. It never really impressed me all that much. I did like it, but you know, eh. It wasn't until I finally watched the second one, This Night I'll Possess Your Corpse, that I kind of jumped on the whole Coffin Joe bandwagon. So, like I said, I hope you learned a little something. I hope you enjoyed my ranking. And I believe next week I'm probably going to be doing the Amityville franchise. So, stay tuned. And if you like what you see in here, hit that like button and subscribe. And until next time, peace.